always want to put that out there. Tom, we still have folks joining us.
Okay.
Oh, hi, Jeremy. I see your question. Why don't we want to have a quorum under the Open Public Meetings Act? Any majority meeting of an elected body, the majority of voters who can make a decision for an elected body. So this would be considered an undisclosed public meeting for them. And so they can't have a number of electeds present from their board that would allow them to pass resolution, ordinance, or any come to any type of decision making.
I could drop out. Is Jeremy there?
Jeremy is on as well.
I'm a different Jeremy, unless there's another Jeremy. I'm not. I'm just a parent.
Well, just.
I'm just surprised we want to lose people that can bring input in on a technicality. It seems there's maybe better ways to work around that. I'm not sure. I don't know enough about it. So pardon my ignorance.
Sarah, have you not been sworn in yet?
No.
Then she's not a board member.
No, I have been sworn in, but for the RCW, I'm not in office until the first meeting is held, and the first meeting isn't until tomorrow. Additionally, the RCW that I read indicates that we can be at community events together as long as we're not discussing board business. But I understand it's always good to be safe, always good to be cautious in these things.
I love you guys. I think you should be safe because the coalition often intersects with board business. So let's be safe. Let's be safe for you.
Thank you.
And I'm sure what we'll end up talking about today will absolutely intersect with board business.
Oh, right, I agree.
And your passion, Sarah.
Thank you.
Oh, Jennifer and Juliet, so nice to see you guys. Julie from Compassionate Friends, welcome back. We're glad to have you back.
Thank you so much.
We have Rachel and Linda. You guys, so happy you're here. So, Tom, I think we're probably safe to start. It's 5 minutes after. Before Tom begins welcoming introductions, I did publish the agenda for today in the email I sent out yesterday. I apologize for the late reminder of the coalition. There's been a lot happening. And so not a but an acknowledgement that there's a lot happening. And so today, the agenda simply is partner sharing and discussion. And I thought we'd let you guide where we land today. If we have time, at the end of the meeting, I want to show a video that the Monroe Community Coalition created in partnership with our speaking community about how to create welcoming environments in each of our organizations, doing a trauma-informed approach. And so specifically, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Organization's trauma-informed approach. So that's about a 20-minute video. And actually, it's really, really useful. When we worked with the community to develop it, it might have been a little ahead of our readiness. And so we probably have much more readiness to receive what's being said with grace and positive intent. Tom, it's all yours.
Well, let's just get started. And I agree that, and if we don't get to that, we'll put it on the January meeting. So we'll either get that today or on January. But I think that what Mary had said, that a need for a good discussion on just where we are now is pretty significant. So let's introduce ourselves. I'm Tom McIntyre. I'm a retired and former school board member. And I'm chair of the coalition.
Sarah, would you introduce yourself? Sarah Johnson, there you go.
Yep, sorry, I didn't catch it the first time. Yep, my name is Sarah Johnson. I was recently elected to the Monroe School Board. And as I said earlier, we'll be doing my first meeting tomorrow and first official board meeting on Monday. I'm a parent in the Monroe School District, and I've got 2 kiddos who attend Maltby Elementary. And thank you for letting me be here.
Thank you. Mary Ruley, you're next in my Brady Bunch squares. Mary is our original PAX champion.
Hello, everybody. Nice to see you. I've taught in the school district for over 23 years and I've lived here for over 50 years and very excited to have the time to be able to start joining these meetings and hopefully doing what I can to help the community. Thank you.
Jeff Jolly, you're on my Brady Bunch list.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Jolly. I'm the Chief of Police with Monroe Police Department and a happy and proud partner of the coalition and supporter of the schools in any way we can be. So good to be here.
Joe, you're on mute.
Doesn't that figure? Sharon, I see you. I see you, but you can't hear me.
That sounds about right. My name is Sharon Landover, and I'm a counselor here at Park Place Middle School.
My friend Liza Patchen-Shore is on with us.
Hi, I'm Liza, and I work at Snohomish County as the Children's Mental Health Liaison.
And Julie.
Julie Lund with the Compassionate Friends of Snohomish County, supporting bereaved parents, siblings, and grandparents after the death of a child.
And Representative Eslick, so nice to have you back.
Well, thank you, Joe. I'm pleased to be here today. Carolyn Eslick from the 39th District. I live in Sultan, Washington. I'm on Children's Mental Health Committee.
Very important committee. Virgil, you're up. Nice to see you, by the way.
Yes, likewise, Joe. Good afternoon. So my name is Virgil and I'm the clinical supervisor here at CMR Behavioral Health. Usually Kristen McCauley, our case manager, attends this, but she's out sick and I was able to join. So good to be here. And Joe, I like your mustache.
Oh, well, it's been safe to have one because it looks like this to everybody else. Juliet, so glad you could join us.
Thanks, Joe. Hi, I'm Juliet D'Alessandro. I am with the Snohomish Health District. I am on our Healthy Communities team, which works on a number of things related to youth substance use prevention and mental health promotion and wellness. And I specifically work on an opioid response grant in partly the Sky Valley area.
Thank you. Pastor Michael Hanford.
Hi, everyone. Michael Hanford, representing the Monroe Pastors Fellowship and a few other things. Thank you.
Thank you. And Director Whitfield, so good to have you with us.
Hey, everybody. Hello, Sarah. I look forward to working with you. Mary, thank you for running. We would have had the opportunity to work together, but being a part of the community and your comments, they're always appreciated. I'm a school board director. I also involved with the business, something to do with licensing and registrations. I just want to thank everybody for their work. It's an important job everyone's doing, and so many areas are representative, and it's so crucial for what's going on in the community, in our schools, for adults, and just thank you for your work. I appreciate it very much.
Rachel, so happy to see you.
Hi, Joe. Happy to see you too. You've been on my mind a lot lately. Let's see, I work with the City of Monroe. I'm a project management consultant and I am the human services coordinator for the city.
Thank you. Stephanie Phillips.
Hello, I'm Stephanie Phillips. I work at Monroe High School. I'm our student assistance professional doing drug and alcohol and vaping prevention.
Thank you. And this month, Jennifer Swan joins us, who has been implementing signs of suicide in each of our secondary schools, and she wrapped up this week. Jennifer, so glad you could be here.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, it's good to be here. I'm sorry I've missed our last few meetings. I'm Jennifer Swan. I'm the behavioral health specialist for Monroe School District. I've been with Monroe Schools for, I think, about 6 months now, which I can't believe it. And I previously worked in outpatient mental health, like CMAR in Tacoma and CCS in Everett for several years. So right now, my main job is crisis response and suicide prevention for K through 12. So it's good to see everybody.
Thank you. My friend Mary Myers, welcome back.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Mary Myers. I am a retired RN, spent almost 30 years in Monroe School District in commitment to health education, health promotion, programs, initiatives, and crisis intervention. I left the district 5 years ago, but part of my heart still remains, and I'm very committed to the coalition and its work. I serve on the leadership team with Pastor Michael and with Tom McIntyre. And Joe, of course.
And Sherry.
And Sherry Matthias, yes.
Jeremy McKenzie, so glad you could join us. This is your first meeting, right?
First meeting, yep. As mentioned earlier, parent of 2 kids, one at Monroe High School and one at Hidden River.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Dennis Smith.
Thanks for having me.
Hi, Joe. Dennis Smith. I'm a retired school psychologist counselor and board member from the Granite Falls School District. I'm thankful that you sent me an invitation again, so I'm glad to be here.
Oh, you're permanently invited. So I don't know if we've met before. Welcome to the meeting. Serena might be busy. Amber, welcome.
I am my wife. Just sorry, Amber. Just wanted to just plug Serena. She's my wife. Same kids.
oh, got it. Jeremy and Serena McKenzie. I should have put it together.
Yeah. Why don't you look for all of our names and connect them? I'm the attendance truancy specialist at the Monroe School District. Sorry, I'm flustered now.
Amber is one of, along with Pastor Michael and Sherry Matthias and Mary Myers and Tom McIntyre, Amber is one of our founding members of the coalition all the way back to 2013. Okay, my screen just reordered. Kimberly Clem.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kimberly. I'm the community care director here at Cascade Church and a mother of 4 adult children that have gone through the school district. And proud Nana of Hudson, almost 1 year old. Good to see everybody.
Wonderful. We're so glad you're here, Kimberly. Aubrey, you're back.
I'm back. I'm Aubrey Rudd, and I represent the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I'm also a parent of 3 kids in the Monroe School District.
Thank you. I am looking at Linda Buring. Linda, welcome.
Yes, hello. I'm sorry, I'm finishing up another Zoom meeting. So real quick, I'm the training director with Hope Unlimited's Anti-Human Trafficking Initiative, where we focus on building community awareness and initiating programs to give parents and others who work with children preventative tools and methods to implement. And we're out of northern Snohomish County, Stanwood Camino area.
Wonderful. Thanks for being with us again, Linda.
Yeah.
So glad you could join us. nice to see you. Okay, Sherry might also be occupied right now.
Oh, sorry, Joe, you
Oh.
cut out for me when you said the name, so I didn't hear my name.
Oh, okay.
Here,
Last
I'll
but
put my
not
clip.
least,
Here we
the
go.
amazing Sherry Matthias.
Thanks, Joe. Hi. So as mentioned before, I'm also a member of the coalition's leadership team, been in force since 2013. I'm also a parent of now only 2 kids in the district and also from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Wonderful. And then we've had one more guest join us, Karen O'Meara Pullen. Karen, long time no see. We're so glad you're here.
I'm sorry, and I'm so sorry I'm late. Hang on, let me start my video here.
From where I stand, you were right on time.
There we go. Thanks. Nice to see you, Joe.
Karen, would you mind introducing yourself?
Oh, sure. I'm Karen O'Meara Pullen. I live in Snohomish. I used to work at, well, I was on the board at the Y in Monroe. So there's a great soft spot in my heart for Monroe. I'm a retired educator. My husband and I live here in Snohomish. One of our 2 daughters lives in Snohomish as well with her 2 kids, or both of whom are in the Snohomish School District. And glad to be here.
Thank you.
Oh, also, for what it's worth, I'm a member of the Snohomish County Children's Commission and the Committee on Mental Health and Chemical Dependency for the county.
Snohomish County Children's Commission is where I learned to support coalitions.
There we go.
Love the work that you do.
Good to hear.
So the format is really open. Tom, I don't want to put you on the spot, but you're such a pro at everything. Mary Myers, I mean, there's so much happening in the community that impacts us all as parents, as professionals, as community members. I didn't know where to start, and I didn't want to influence where conversation goes today. This is a strategic planning year for the coalition. So this will be good data for us to start to consider what our role is in the community. Is it strictly limited to mental health and substance abuse support? We know the coalition, if you're new, implements a model or a framework called the Strategic Prevention Framework. And that's how we develop our strategic plan. Right in the center of that model is cultural competence. So I think my overriding question to you is, what's happening in your world? What's important to you right now? And what role does the coalition have in the community at this juncture in time? And Mary Myers, I know you provided us with some additional questions. I just want to open this up, really listen and capture your thoughts.
Joe, if I could start, I have a question that I think needs clarification. The coalition met, we meet monthly, of course, but we had a focused conversation in June last year, I believe. And we were talking about the issues of racism, discrimination, community culture, how we would impact that, what our role specifically as a coalition ought to be. The Monroe Equity Council stepped forward and took a major role in terms of guiding, if not leading, the conversation and in attempting to mobilize community. Some issues have surfaced, as we all are so well aware, in recent weeks that demand attention. And my question to you, Joe, is I feel like we have talked and talked, but we have not taken action. And what can that look like as a coalition? Are we limited by the framework of the coalition I understand we can't be engaged in political dynamic. Is that correct? That's probably a poor descriptor, but my passion is, how do we define the role of the coalition, certainly as it affects the mental health of our youth, and certainly it is impacting the mental health of our families and our staff.
Go ahead.
How do we step up as a community partner? What role makes sense for us to embrace?
So a couple
Because we certainly
background.
want to collaborate with, we don't want to work independent of.
Sorry, just taking notes. So I can answer some of the technical questions, which are, as a coalition, we cannot recommend how city council or local government can vote. We can advocate and educate. What that means is the coalition can take any position it desires and own it as our position, and put it out anywhere we want. So we get to have an opinion on everything. Not always a great idea to have an opinion on everything, but the things that impact our community right now are definitely related to our mission. Youth wellness is our mission. The coalition over the last 8 years has been a leader in providing trauma-informed practice training to our coalition partners and their organizations and really regional organizations. We know that trauma and institutional and historic racism go hand in hand. We know that our students of color are disproportionately impacted by trauma compared to white students when income is not a factor. Poverty is the great equalizer in trauma exposure. We know that the impact of trauma and systemic racism, since this is the topic on everybody's mind, definitely leads to long-term negative outcomes related to substance abuse, to the experience of depression and anxiety, to suicidality. So as a coalition, we are not responding to symptoms. We have always responded to root causes. And so it's been our obligation and commitment to the community to identify root cause vulnerabilities and then to put strategies in place that ultimately reduce community violence, reduce dropout, and reduce substance use. So we cannot tell Representative Eslick how she should vote, but we could strongly educate her, right? Except that, Carolyn, we're aligned, so you can educate us. We can support each other. We can't tell Sarah Johnson or Chuck how they should vote, but they can hear us loud and clear, and I'm so proud of their commitment to be here with us. So that's kind of the parameters. As to what role do we embrace? What is our role regarding the issues that are impacting our community right now? That's what I hope to discover from you guys. Mary kind of opened the way for us to talk about it. What do you think?
Well, I agree with that we need to get, first of all, a clear picture. And I consider myself way out of the loop. My youngest graduated from high school in 2008, and I've been off the board for 10 years, and the Monroe Monitor doesn't exist. And so I'm pretty narrowly aware of things. And I think we need to hear from the school board people, from the politicians, the school workers, and really the group that's here, what they're seeing and what their concerns, and then we build our. It seems like I think Mary's got the piece that we do once we have the picture, but first we have to find the picture. And I would just like to, I think kind of you planned, Joe, open it up for the group to let us hear from what you're seeing and your, I've been so removed. I mean, I go early in the morning to Fred Meyer, and I went to church for the first time last week. So I'm just not very connected. I could walk through the high school and might maybe not see anybody I knew, you know.
Who wants to go first? Somebody from Monroe School District. You know what, actually, hey, Jeremy, I know you're new, but I'm very interested in your perspective as a community member. What do you see happening at Hidden River and Monroe High School? What's the issue from your point of view?
The issue is, you know, of course, we're concerned. The kids are concerned. Pulling them out, you know, a few days, you know, this week and last week, due to them being scared and us being scared for them. Want to understand what the roadmap is for helping resolve these issues. I understand there's a lot of coordination going on, and that's great, and that is, you know, a multi-pronged issue of protecting privacy and safety, and training people in you know, having one voice in how we're dealing with this. You know, the set of issues as the interrelation of them, as you mentioned earlier. So just mostly being a fly in the wall, just wanted to listen to see what's going on. I don't have much expertise to add much value. I don't know, maybe I do and I just don't realize it, but yeah, listening also to where I can lend help or communicate to the other concerned parents that we network with. Yeah.
Thank you. And just to clarify, if you have a point of view, you have the expertise we're looking for. So thanks for being here. Who wants to share what they're seeing in the hallways? Anybody willing to share?
I will. I'm here.
I knew you'd unmute yourself.
My son goes to Park Place. My daughter goes to Frank Wagner. I didn't include that in my thing. I actually feel and I do work at those. I have a 1 day a week that I go to the middle schools and I go to Frank Wagner. And I actually feel safe with my son going to Park Place. And if my student went to Hidden River, I would feel safe, because a lot of this has to do with COVID, is that teachers are standing at the doors for masks, and we are locking our doors so people don't come in. So that's already something that has been happening because of something else. But I will say it seems like a security measure that's kind of makes me feel like comfortable with my son going there. And then I know that there's staff at every door wherever they come in from the bus, just to greet students too. And that's what I do. I go out in front and just say hi to kids. And so can we bring something in a backpack with somebody noticing? Yes, we can. But however, a big, you know what I mean, thing is just, it's not hard for me to feel worried about that. Also, I know that I do walk the hallways during the passing periods, and for the middle schools, they go to their classes and they're there. Yeah, some kids are a little late, but they're there, and you know, the staff is really great about making sure that they're there, and they're young enough to still listen. And so so for that, and you know, when we get a little bit older, we have more independence. So maybe at the high school, it's not the same. However, staff makes a concentrated effort to get students there. And, you know, my job is to contact students and their families when they are not in class. And if there's a lot of skipping and I do see a student, I'll be like, hey, I'm just going to contact your parents. You know, I want to help you get to class, because that's only going to be hard on you for your grades. It's distracting, you know, when you go in late and then you get behind, and then it's frustrating. And so I think, yeah, there could be, we have all new admin, they're doing the best that they can, but it's a little bit different than the other schools that I go to. And I think that overall, like being in this role, it is a outreach role, even if I am concentrating maybe on students' engagement. It's always leading to what a student and a family is struggling with. And so I do know too much stuff, and it's not always pleasant. And I will say the things that I've noticed in this is that when we're about to go to a winter break, or we're going to go to even a summer break, families who think I'm going to be okay, and at the very last minute, they're like, oh my gosh, I need help. And so these last 2 weeks are already something that I think our whole team already recognizes, that people are like, I need help. I'm gonna be gone for 2 weeks, and I need connections. And so what I noticed this time around is that it's not necessarily resources or anything. There's a lot of mental health, depression, and just in general anxiety for everyone. And it doesn't even have to do with what has happened this week, which doesn't help at all. But it's just something that we have gone into this school year with. So that's my perspective. I do believe in the staff here. Building staff is incredible, and they're just up against a lot. And so, thank you.
Sarah Johnson, as a parent and incoming board member, what is it that you're seeing? What are the issues that we should probably consider?
So I would, especially recently, I would actually say that fear is something that I'm hearing a lot of. And in particular, if, from what Amber said, what I'm hearing about is that maybe not all of that fear is necessary, or maybe that fear is based in a lack of understanding or awareness about what's going on in the schools. And so that leads me to the second thing that I'm hearing, which is just that there is a lack of transparency and maybe education or information about what's happening at the schools. And that, again, is then feeding into fear. So I think we sort of have this cycle of fear going on, not enough information coming out, and it sort of spiraling on itself.
Joe, can I say something as a parent? Just kind of what we've been seeing in my home. And maybe this sounds a little off base, but as a parent, I would like to see more support with media literacy. I think a lot of the fear that's coming and a lot of the problems that are coming are totally, or not totally through, but spread by social media. And just my kids, I think that's where, because I felt like the school district did a great job. I got an email like about a Snapchat, but I'm like, my kids, I had to be the one to let the kids know. I feel like there's so many kids, and I mean, in this situation in particular, but also just with the mental health issues of my children, and being benefited with like Screenagers or watching The Social Dilemma. Like, I just don't think maybe there's enough support for parents or kids with media literacy, being critical thinkers about what's coming in, what messages are coming in, who wants you to believe this message, who benefits from this message, why this message. I think kids are, they're not as critical at thinking about the information coming in, whether it's true, who would do it, and then it gets spread very quickly, through that kind of sensationalized, oh, did you hear? Oh my gosh. And then I think fear spreads. So I would love to see maybe some resources of just helping kids be more media literate. And in so doing, I think that helps them question how they feel about things, how they feel about information coming in. And maybe it's just because I would love to have someone else tell my anxious teenager that Instagram affects her mental health. I'm like, I feel like, as parents, maybe we're like the only ones, but my friends, or mom, you're so strict because we don't let our kids use Snapchat. Oh my goodness, just to have it coming from somewhere else. Like, this is actually a mental health skill that you're going to need throughout your life. So, I mean, maybe that's not as trauma focused, but I definitely feel like it's very mental health affecting this. And I think they need more skills. And maybe I'm, as a parent, I'm like, I need more support in helping them build these skills that support their mental health and just support critical thinking about ideas coming in to what they're thinking about. So that's just maybe off topic, or I hope that's helpful.
Aubrey, I think it speaks how interweaved all of these complex issues are. I mean, we see a rumor touch off a firestorm that deeply impacts a middle school student's life because now he's earned a brand. We see district decision hit Facebook and the community's divided over what the right response is. And media literacy is an evidence-based prevention strategy. So if it was one of the directions the coalition wanted to go, we could certainly take on media literacy.
May I ask a question of Aubrey? Aubrey,
Yeah, go for it.
you're very well spoken on this topic. And I applaud you for that as a parent, because you're actively very involved in terms of helping your kids develop those skills and know how to use technology as a tool. I'm wondering, as a parent in that role, how do you see other parents? Do you see that is broader than just the need for adolescents, but also for us as adults in terms of using Facebook or other areas of social media to drive what our impressions are? I've heard the saying before, and I think it's well stated, that in the absence of fact, people fill in their own. And so if people don't feel that the communications they're receiving are fully transparent, they're going to try to make sense of it by filling in the blanks, and then that gets shared on social media, and it kind of takes on a life of its own. I am uncertain right now how much of the anxiety and fear is driven by the race issues that have reared their ugly head, and how much of it is concern about violence on campus. And whether the two are one's just feeding the other and it just spirals.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I feel like social media is kind of at the core of so many different issues. I definitely think, for our family, we've been talking a lot about and having to teach, like, when this message comes in, where is it coming from? Can we corroborate that it's true? That's, I think, the hardest part about social media is, especially for kids, it seems like an authority, it's coming from like something that looks like a valid source. And for us to have to teach them that, because I think when we were growing up, the nightly news stated fact as far as we knew, right? Like, and I feel like things have evolved. Like you said, people fill in the blanks or maybe say what they think is true, and it just can snowball. But yeah, I just feel like it's at the core of safety, those aspects of feeling safe at school, maybe even some racial issues. I definitely, my daughter was at a football game, and there was there were some other middle schoolers who were being contacted by an adult predator. Like, there's just so many things about social media that I think we could really tackle, or, I think there's just a lot of avenues we could go. As far as like a parent and watching other parents, I feel like so many parents are not maybe wise on the dangers of some sites. I think for a parent, like, I had to be proactive to try to learn, and there's new sites every time. I mean, there's new apps and new things coming that I feel like as a parent, like, I'm having a hard time staying on top of dangerous situations that I feel like our kids just kind of walk blindly into. You hand them a phone and it's in their pocket, and if you're not savvy, and if you're not teaching your kids to be savvy, they could be contacted by sexual predators. They could be internalizing a lot of ideas, racial or other. A lot of media is meant to incite emotion, or they could be super anxious about peers liking what they post, or, you know what I mean? It's just really trying to steer our kids to not being validated from being out there, the out there, and building just kind of mental health skills about who they are. And anyway, I feel like it's just a really, like you said, Joe, a multi-pronged idea. So an issue, but I think it's one that could make a difference if we could do, and I think, like I said, because it's so multi-pronged, maybe we'd have to pick and choose what things really are making a difference. But I definitely think social media, at least this week, was a huge player in my kids wondering if they were safe at school. So that's just, yeah. Did I answer a question? I'm sorry, Mary. Did I answer what you were looking for?
Thank you very much. Thanks. I appreciate you elaborating on your initial comments.
Yeah, no problem.
This might be a really good time for us to bring in Chief Jolly. He's been doing the investigative aspect of some of these things. And I know his hands are somewhat tied in some ways, but what is your perspective, Chief Jolly? And is the campus secure? And what do you have to say?
Well, I have a lot of things to say, a lot of things I probably shouldn't. I'm not a big fan of social media, and I'm certainly don't think it's a good way to communicate and articulate stimulating conversation that has any kind of meaningful asset to our community when you're discussing serious topics. With that said, we have responded to several issues at several schools here in the area and have investigated thoroughly to our full capacity every single possible issue that has been raised in concerning school safety. In regards to any kind of mass incident or serious incident that's been put forth in various forms, from social media to word of mouth, we have not found any corroborating information that would lead us to believe that there's any serious threats that are posed by these things that are circulating. So we continue to have a high presence at the schools, and we'll do as much as the schools would like us to do to help reassure the faculty, the parents, and the school community. So we'll be there and do whatever's needed of us to help make people feel safe. So I hope that answered your question.
As a consumer of social media, I do appreciate Monroe PD's communications that, along with what the district has been putting out, you have also been providing information to the public about the role that your officers have assumed. And what you can share with the public, you have done so in a reassuring manner. So thank you for that.
We've tried to put out the information, which is, I think, is a valuable part of social media. It's a conduit for putting out information. I get a little frustrated when people want to debate things on social media. To try to have any meaningful conversation is not reality. But we try to put out the information. It is frustrating sometimes because we can't say exactly everything that we have. I know that kind of flies in the face of transparency, but even people who do bad things have rights, especially if they're juveniles. And we have to honor those and protect the rights of all persons in all aspects of an investigation. But as of right now, as of 1:46 p.m. on a Thursday, I feel pretty comfortable about having mitigated any serious threats at our schools.
Are you getting a lot of call-ins from the public about perceived safety or lack of?
Absolutely. Is it Hidden River over the next area over? We assisted the sheriff's office with that. That was a very busy night. We have been bombarded with calls for the last 2 weeks, and we're trying to just work with the school district to put out a consistent message and reassure everybody that these are being thoroughly investigated. And having said that, I mean, sometimes I think I take it for granted, but just know that we will hold anybody accountable that creates this fear in the schools. So we are looking at that aspect also. We do have 2 or 3 juveniles at this time that are being charged with various things.
Mary Rulli, I see your hand up.
So because I was out in the community and talking to different people, I have learned that we don't use language in the same way, meaning one word means something to somebody different than way I think about it. I would love to see a resource where we have common definitions that we use when we're talking. Ooh, can you still hear me? Oh. And resources, like I see people scrolling on the right here in the chat. I can see resources being available. I would love to have those on a site where people can refer to them, or we can tell parents, hey, you can go to this site and you get information. I'd also like to see by grade level information. So let's say you want to talk about what the word racism means, you would have different resources maybe for elementary and for middle school and for high school and for adults, that they could go back and take a look at it. I really feel like our community is having difficulty talking to one another when we have different meanings for some of the words that I thought we all had a common knowledge of what we thought it meant. So I would love to see the coalition come up with some resources and a statement about when we talk about racism, this is what we mean by it. When we talk about mental health, this is what we mean by mental health. And these are resources that we can go to learn more about it and to teach our children and have conversations with them. Thanks for letting me share that. Uh-oh, did you guys hear what I said? I'm hoping.
Yes.
Okay, I turned my video off. I'm hoping that you guys heard what I said. Yes, no?
It was a little stretched out, but we were able to interpret it. There's a little bit of a Wi-Fi slowdown there.
And so I am hearing 2 predominant issues emerge. That is threats of violence, mental health, and then kind of the underlying structures that enable both, including social media, an apparent lack of transparency and communication. So I am tracking and taking notes. I want to go to Jeremy, who's had his hand up. I know Karen has to leave here in a couple of minutes. And Karen, I always value your perspective as a champion for equity. So I'm going to put you on the spot in just a minute here. But Jeremy, you're up.
If Karen needs to go first, I can wait around.
Karen, will you spill the beans? Right now.
Will I spill the beans? Well, I one of the reasons that I've been meaning to come back to participate with the coalition for a while, so I apologize for my absence. But one of the reasons that I raced home from after doing errands to attend this afternoon was just recently. I mentioned this in the chat to everybody. The panel that was put together by Monroe Equity Council, and it was very moving, and moving doesn't even touch it. It was horrific. Talking, and I think the focus was clearly on action. What can we do? It wasn't just young people, and they were mostly young people, recent graduates from Monroe High School, recent attendees to the Monroe Public System, a number of parents, talking about the prevalence of racism and how so often issues have been put under the rug. One of the things that was worrisome to me, and I think probably to a lot of people, is that kids sometimes wouldn't tell their parents, wouldn't even go to a trusted adult because their thought was nothing's ever going to happen. We've brought it up before. We brought it to the school district. We brought it to teachers, and we've not been taken seriously. So I think that was worrisome to me, certainly as a parent, as a grandparent, as a former educator, that institutional racism is sadly enough alive and well. And my heart went out to the kids who were sharing their stories, and also that sense of frustration that they and their parents were feeling. So anyway, I guess that's all I want to say. If those of you who haven't seen that video, get ready, because it's an eye opener and a heart terror.
Yeah. Thanks, Karen. Jeremy, you're up. And then
just wanted to see what security plans are we considering that we know of for the future? Are we considering things like increased police presence on campus for these schools, metal detectors? I'm just coming in a little bit of ignorance. I don't know what's actually been talked about or planned or anything voted on or.
Sorry, the short answer is I don't know. Things have evolved so rapidly here. I know that we work very closely with Chief Jolly and his team, also with Chief McDonald in East County and their team out there. When there is a concern of a threat of violence, all of the district administration is alerted immediately. Law enforcement is on those same alerts. Investigation is triggered immediately. We often work with Chief Jolly to bring additional manpower to the targeted campus, whether it's a rumor or an unconfirmed rumor. I know on Thursday night when we first discovered one of the social media posts, Chief Jolly's team was out working into the early AM, chasing down whether or not this was a threat or not. And without knowing details to share, I can tell you that movement is swift and rapid, and we do communicate as soon as we have anything to communicate with the community. In fact, lately we've been communicating around just exactly what we know, and that more will come as we know, so that the community is aware that we're seeing what's happening on social media and that we take it seriously. I wonder if Director Whitfield might have anything to add. I can definitely bring our risk management officer to a future meeting to talk about this with us, and some of his security staff as well. But again, I don't know as much as Chief Jolly or Director Whitfield, and so I want to take a step back and just own my personal ignorance.
Well, I'd like to say our risk manager, Greg Burns, is serious as a heart attack with any matters dealing with security. In fact, I've just seen him over the top on some things with safety, and I don't know about active shooter drills. We've had those in the past, and then we've had some people that have not liked those because they feel like their kids are traumatized because of that. So I would leave that up to him, but I tell you what, he is serious. He's incredible. Also, Chief Jolly and the department, they take all their roles very seriously and would respond and also evaluate what the potential is. And along with the Snohomish County Sheriff's Department, they're also actively involved. I spoke to a sheriff recently, And he was aware of what was going on. I asked him about these threats, this jest of so-called jest of violence. It is, they're investigated. They run down the phone numbers. I would hope the punishment is swift and accurate and swift, and that action is being taken. I know a student, I read one from Mariner, and his response was, well, I thought it would be funny. Well, he's facing 6 charges. I can't remember exactly what they were, but 3 was on certain types of count, 3 were on the other. And if we do have something like that happen, and we find out, I think they should be made an example of, so people understand the seriousness. This is just not acceptable. But I would, if anybody has any concerns, I would talk to Greg Burns first, and then, I'm confident that Chief Jolly is completely involved with this. And a comment earlier on social media, I went to the Citizens Academy, and I learned about different ways that kids are preyed upon. And there are apps like you cannot believe. There was 10 or 15 apps I had never even heard of, and they are dangerous and they're heinous, and they attack or target certain types of kids. So there's the social media that we know of, our age in this room or this panel is, I claim ignorance. But there's also the aspect for child safety and what they have access to, and that, with predators. And just to add on the other aspect that we're talking about, these root causes that Joe talked about, this depression, anxiety, and suicide, I'm over the top on those things. Those concern me to such a degree. And to hear the counselors and the mental health and the suicide prevention, it's just crucial. I mean, we should double and triple the people we have available. And the other thing is, because of this lockdown, it's how the parents are behaving. We saw what that one parent was that was involved in that event. I shouldn't swear that I was really upset. And it's individuals like that are having influence on the kids. And I don't know if they're new to the school district, but that's the concern I have, and for the safety of the kids. So, the school board takes it very seriously. We're contacted right away by the superintendent, and work with and receive communication what the school is doing. But as you know, it's a litigious society, and all communications have to go through the legal side and contact with the attorney about what we can say and what we can't say. And so when that communication goes out, it doesn't seem transparent, but you have to be very careful with what is said. And unfortunately, we can't share. If I was a parent, I would want to know more. I would want to know the details. There's also a federal law protecting, I can't remember the acronym, but you cannot legally on a federal level talk about any type of punishment that is employed against children. And I think if the parents did know, or the community did know, they would probably be satisfied with the actions that are taken. But the whole thing is serious business. And from my standpoint, it is just not acceptable. And all means all, and any type of bullying. So there's a variety of students and circumstances and behaviors and beliefs and all the above. So bullying of any kind is unacceptable. So that is my take on the thing.
Thank you. I'm going to go in order of hands. Sharon is next, then Chief Jolly, then Rachel.
Hi, thanks, Joe. Sorry, my hand's been up for so long. I'm not sure I'm going to remember everything I meant to say. Well, first of all, for those of you that don't know me, I'm a counselor at Park Place Middle School. And my original thought was to comment on the safety piece of the most recent events. And as far as that goes, students and staff feel safe in our schools. We have a very, very small percentage of students whose parents are not allowing them to come to school, very small percentage, based on what they're seeing and hearing. Most of the reports we're getting are about the same incidents, but have spread again on social media. So they're out there for a second, third, fourth time, but there hasn't been, the ones that we're looking at that are the big ones, I'll say, are oftentimes recycled. So there's not a fear of being unsafe in general here in the school. Now, that being said, the racial piece is a whole nother issue. There are students here who are afraid every day. And it's not due to mass violence threats. It is due to the systemic racism that's built into the system. We have Hispanic students who believe that it doesn't really matter what they do, they're always going to get in more trouble than a white student would. So they have to watch their backs, per se. We have students of color who every day are approached with words they should never have to hear. Not an 11-year-old child hearing some of these words. And as somebody pointed out earlier, the majority of what we're seeing and hearing in that department is coming straight from the homes, straight from the families, and they're just being repeated here in the school building. The other group that nobody's really touched on is our students in the LGBTQ+ community, who are also being harassed daily. I can't tell you some of the things that have happened, but for me as a counselor, I feel I spend the majority of my time, and I'm new to the Monroe School District. I came from Lake Washington. So I spend the majority of my days just trying to assure students that they're going to be okay. And the mental health piece right now is off the charts. And it's coming from a lot of different things, but the underlying current in all of it is the polarity in our country. And it's ripping families apart, it's ripping the students apart, and they just are not old enough or equipped to deal with the messages they're getting. I'm afraid for a lot of our students just because of the types of things I'm hearing, how they're feeling, what they're saying, and there's a lot of hopelessness. And instead of that being supported and built up within the families, it's being perpetuated with ongoing hate, basically, and fear. And as a counselor, I'm at a little bit of a loss because there are not the tools available to us right now to support these poor students. And I can't, it's unfathomable, some of the things that some of them are dealing with.
Sharon, do you have an idea about the tools that would help?
Well, I started thinking as people were talking, and like Common Sense Media is an easy one for the social media piece. It's a nonprofit. Most school districts use it as part of their curriculum. It's free to parents and families. And it's leveled across multiple age groups from early elementary to high school. So as far as like a learning piece, that's an easy one. The piece that I'm more concerned about is how to address, okay, this is going to sound really bad, but how to address the racial piece without either getting myself killed or fired. You know, it's like, honestly, I would like to open my mouth and say exactly what I think, but I don't know that even I feel safe in that area yet. But it's, and so I'm not sure. As far as the violence threats, the large scale violence threats, there's a lot of different pieces. There's Alice, there's different run, hide, fight kind of things. There's a lot of things that have been evidence-based, proven effective, easy to teach. And like with everything else, I heard somebody say that, some parents, there's a pushback when it comes to those active shooter drills because they're traumatizing. So were fire drills at some point. You have to normalize it, that, the more you practice and the more that you know what to do, the less frightening it becomes. It's the unknown that's frightening. So I don't know. I rambled. I'm sorry.
No, it was all very helpful. Thank you. Chief Jolly, you're up.
Thanks, Joe. I think, wow, Sharon, we've got to meet sometime. I think you summed up a lot of that very, very well. And that polarity that people have, that division or whatever it is, it just seems like when we go out in our role as police and confront that, people double down and they even harden their position. And it's a strange dynamic that I'm still learning how to navigate. But I wanted to just mention in response to Jeremy's question, Joe brought it out that there's a bunch of and as well as Chuck, very hardworking people that are passionate about school safety, and whether that's drills or the physical makeup of a facility itself, which Park Place is an excellent model of that. Those things, of course, we haven't discussed those. Certainly, if a cop was designing it or Greg Burns, there'd be 15 points of entry in one area, right? You'd have to go through 15 checkpoints. But that's not always going to be accepted by the community. So to Jeremy's question, yes, I'm sure the school district will discuss that sometime. They have some people that are very willing to engage in those conversations. Right now, it's just been kind of crisis management and trying to make sure operations continue. And, the police department has been working really, really hard, but so is the school side, and the principals and the faculty and the superintendent, I don't think, got out of his office before 10 p.m. any night in the last couple of weeks. And I laugh, but that's, I like to go home a little earlier than 10. So there are a bunch of professionals and people that have that in mind. And certainly when everybody catches their breath, there'll be some vibrant discussion, and I'm sure it'll involve the community and parents too, as to what you want your schools to look like from a safety point of view. And remember too, we have parents here in my place that have kids in the school system. So we're pretty vested in this ourselves. We have parents here whose children are first generation Americans to our country. So we feel a lot of this and have it very personally right here in this house. So it's a very serious issue for us. That's why we will partner as best we can to help.
Thanks, Chief. I see Rachel and then Norma.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in a little bit and just say thank you to Chuck. Gosh, I resonated so much with everything you said about mental health and depression and anxiety. I feel like that is and Joe, you've done such a great job of leading the adults through this time. This time has been traumatic. The pandemic has been traumatic. Everybody's stress level is so high. And I just think of our parents and our kids going home to our parents in that environment, that it's like the stress, impacts them. They're living in a petri dish of stress, and how that shows up in different symptoms is what we're seeing. I feel like, I don't know. I know that I grew up in a home with parents that had some post-traumatic stress, and I didn't realize for years that, it's like that was impacting me. Other people's stress, it's contagious. And I really, really think we have to, as a community coalition, encourage people to encourage the adults and the parents to look at how they're taking care of themselves so that they can take care of their kids and be there for their kids. So their kids can go to school and be around other kids. I know that the city is working really hard on exploring some mobile mental health options and getting some crisis response so that that we can look at embedding a mental health professional into our community resource paramedic right now, so that they can be able to respond to some of these mental health crises within 2 minutes instead of a 2-hour time frame, because that's not quick enough. So much of the research from NAMI coming out right now just talks about how much we really have been impacted by the pandemic, and it's pretty alarming. So I thank you, Chuck, for bringing that up. I also just want to say that county, there's an ordinance that's at the county right now that has a public hearing on December 15th that is about implementing a 0.1% sales tax on countywide to that would then take those funds and devote them to mental health and affordable housing. So that's something that I just want to put out there, because I feel like right now, as much as the city is exploring this mobile mental health thing, we haven't quite found a sustainable funding source. And this is one of the very few lines of funding that would be a sustainable funding source. And Joe, I know that you've been really supportive of my efforts to explore mobile mental health and partnered with me in that, and I just really appreciate that. So those are some of the areas that I can see the community coalition coming in. I've got somebody at my door. My dog's letting me know, so thank you.
So I want to go to Norma and then Virgil. I'm gonna pick on you briefly. I'd love to hear what our capacity looks like, both at CMAR and in the region, because my sense is we have none. But Norma, you're up. Oh, let me unmute you. I cannot unmute you. You have to unmute.
All right. As a Texan growing up in the south of Texas, I was always subject to a certain degree of prejudice. And that extended into my college years. I can remember vividly being asked not to speak Spanish in college at a job that I was working at. So there you go. Now, I'm sure that the students who experience the subtleties of current discrimination are not quite subject to what I experienced. But nevertheless, I think it's important that we focus on these students to a degree, because they're the ones who need the help. So there you go.
Thank you, Norma. I'm going to come back to you two. Virgil, will you clue us in on your organization's capacity, what you need, and what regional capacity looks like?
Sure. Quick answer to that is what Chuck said. I wish we could double, triple the mental health therapists. And I wish what's happening at our site is an anomaly, but I'm afraid it's a microcosm of what's happening across the country.
Yes.
Shortage of workers all across the board. To give you an idea, we at our site, we've been short-staffed for months. And the workers that we have, they're fabulous clinicians, but they're not even from our country. They're foreign. They need sponsorship to work here, but they're mental health therapists. So thank God they're here. So to give you an idea, 3 out of 5 clinicians are dependent on work visa, and they're taking long time and there's money involved. I don't know if it's the funding or not, but many of our clinicians have left either because they're burnt out of the vaccine mandate, or there's a just better place to go and less stressful. So at some point, it's very frustrating because many of us come into this field, we love what we do, but we're getting burnt out like many teachers are. So I don't know if it's a funding, but from my perspective, having worked here 12th year, nonprofit agencies like ours, there's got to be some systemic change as far as the workload, the flexibility. I hear money, and I hear, the stigmas reducing, that, government are, pro mental health, but it's not translating into where we are at. And the needs are continuing, but we don't have enough people feeling the needs. So at our current site, we don't have anybody from Monroe High School since John left. We just hired someone again. Her name is Nishita, but she's waiting for her work visa to come through, and she's from India. And then for Salton High School, we have Ewen, who was out for a month and a half without pay because she was waiting for her work visa to come through. And thank God it just came through recently. So she's back with us.
So I want to bring us back to the original question posed by Mary Myers. What is our role in responding to racism or engaging in anti-racism work or positions in this community? And I really do mean our, because the coalition is an independent community organization. Monroe School District is our fiscal agent, but you represent the coalition. So I'm so glad that we have Director Whitfield and Director Johnson and earlier Director Bumpus and Rachel, and often we have Deborah Knight. And so we have a great representation of different sectors of support within the community. But while you're with us, you are us. So what is our role? We have cultural competence, again, at the center of the model. We've heard a lot of information today about fear in general, the influence of social media, the fear to both engage in the work and speak up about the work, that, and confirmed by Principal Willie's email, in addition to sharing her observations, that this is everyday, that these aren't isolated, disparate incidences, but that these are our kids' reality every day. And so we do have Monroe Equity Council providing a platform and a forum, but what is our role? And Mary, you earlier said, what's the role that we embrace when we take on these issues? Probably not going alone. So I'm going to take a step back. And this is the time where I just want to hear like your wish list. What do you wish we could do? What do you fear we might do? What would be counterproductive? What would be most productive? It's yours. I'm taking the silence as this is complex.
Can I maybe, just as a parent, I would love, I don't know if there's a tool or a resource where we can get some real discussion in the classroom. I have my 8th grader is such an advocate for those who are marginalized. And so she comes home and tells me things every day. Oh, this, oh, that, oh, I wish. How can we change minds or help people see different perspectives? And I do think just the polarization that we've been talking about is there a way, a tool, something that we can get discussion going with the youth? Like, they are smart, but they also are inundated with information and come from cultures or families that have ideas about things. Can we, I don't know, a platform of just talking about respect. How do we, I would love to see that in a classroom setting. It seems like there's so many awesome, though maybe understaffed resources for once trauma has occurred, but can we go back to the education piece where it's happening, where I feel like, we're here to try to support our kids and our youth. And I think that's the most painful part, is to hear that this is happening to kids that we love and they're in our communities. And can we, I don't know, is there a teaching tool of some kind where we can get discussion going in the classroom where kids can really analyze their thoughts or their beliefs and whether they're true or who they're hurting, how they can be a support to other kids, how they can speak up. I mean, like we've talked about, there's fear surrounding even speaking up. How can we change that dynamic? Can it start in a classroom with teachable minds, is just my thought.
So far, I've heard the coalition can identify resources and teaching tools, both for the classroom and to equip home conversations. So far, I've heard that the coalition can take a position rather than one of neutrality, which is also a position. What else have I heard so far that I've missed?
Like, I don't know specifically about that, Joe. The one thing I wonder about is, why aren't these things being reported and keeping track of? If we have individuals who are saying things, we should get a tick list or a check mark anytime they say something mean, racial, bullying, have those things reported. I'm fashioned towards action in terms of zeroing in on the problem. So if Johnny or Susie are saying things, should be noted, it should be reported, and a file established, and that's targeted towards the individual. That is, I don't know the prevalence, but I would assume that there's certain individuals that continue to use racial slurs that are discriminatory, and the teachers should feel safe and students feel safe to report individuals. And then those individuals that are saying these things, I'm kind of old school there. They should be punished. There should be consequences, just like calling. They should be tracked, reported, and the individual specifically. Talking about here right now. I just hear about things anecdotally. I'm not part of the school, with my kids, but I have heard it, and I think the reporting. And we do have processes in place, but I don't know. Well, let me ask you this, Joe. What is part of the process when a teacher or a student hears something?
Sure. So, and I'm going to go to Sarah after this, because I know Sarah has something to say. I will say that I spent some time talking with students at Monroe High School on Monday morning. My specific objective was to ask them about their timeline for their principal's return, to check in with them and support them if they were impacted. And we did have multiple impacted students, and to see what our next steps were, because it makes no sense to plan next steps in isolation or without the voice of the impacted. And what I learned on Monday was our students were ready for Mr. Willie to come back. They wanted to expressly engage him in conversation about the weight of those words. One of the things that came out that I didn't expect, and it's just because of my ignorance, was our students of color who were most impacted were impacted because the N word was censored while the other words were said. And what they thought was that even though these words carry significant weight with them, that they were being more marginalized by an act of both trying to draw a line in the sand. They saw the heart. There's true love and respect universally for Mr. Willie. And what we heard loud and clear too is it's not safe to report. And so we're getting confirmation about what the coalition has seen in our healthy youth survey data. So when compared to the district reporting data, healthy youth reports of being bullied due to perceived gender or sexual identity or perceived race or ethnicity far outnumber the school reports. And what we're learning and what came out as we've been talking with teachers too is when they hear it, they stop it, but it's not leaving the. And so Dr. Blasco and executive cabinet brought out our attorney to provide counsel to this. He outlined a very clear expectation under Title IX, under harassment, intimidation, and bullying reporting, that just stopping it is not enough. There needs to be an official discrimination report filed so that we can count the data and report it and respond to it. So there's a breakdown in process right now. And it really comes down to training and the expectations that are being communicated. But Sarah, I want to hand it to you too.
Thank you so much. So really quickly, when you first asked the question, I was pausing because I actually jumped on the coalition website and I searched anti-racism and I searched racism and it didn't come up with any results. And I don't see a statement on there about the coalition's approach to being anti-racist. So that would be important. I think I would like to see that if this coalition feels that is what they are and how they want to function in the community, making that statement would be important. And then one thing that is incredible about the website is that it provides data about the work that the coalition has accomplished. And so having some type of metric, you know, once we make a statement, or once the coalition makes a statement about the type of anti-racist action, because it is an action word, it is a verb, once they make a decision about how they actively want to be anti-racist, providing the public some data about what that actually looks like. How is that represented in the community? How can the community provide feedback about how that's gone, I think would be incredible. And the last thing that I'll say, I've heard in the community a lot, and I think it speaks to this point of people feeling uncomfortable about reporting, is how do we create safe spaces, safe contacts? Like Chuck brought up, we have a reporting system. That doesn't seem to be filling the need that we have. And so I don't know how the coalition can be part of that. Can it become a safe space? Can it provide safe people to go to, or can it at least connect folks to those resources?
I really appreciate that, Sarah. And the truth is, with regard to the coalition's anti-racism work, it's woven into the work, the programs that we select, the how we even process data with impacted communities. The inherent mission of the coalition and the funder is to address health disparities populations and work with them to address some of these issues. So for me to simply type a list of the work, I could do that this afternoon, right? It's just, we have not been explicit about that work because our explicit mission has been substance abuse prevention and mental health promotion. So this is good feedback. And I'm sure the leadership team has a lot to chew on right now about how we want to be explicit in the work. I see Virgil and I see Dennis.
Yeah, so a couple of thoughts, Joe. So about the racial divide. So, you know, that's something that all of us are, trying to address. And that is like, in the midst of darkness, we're all trying to be the light. In the midst of all the hate, how can we be more loving? So as far as the student body, I think how to bring healing to those who have been hurt, and how to increase the capacity to love, and that really is the key. And I'm thinking, just from my own personal experience, and recently at our church, at the National Adoption Day, one of the gals spoke. She was adopted, and she spoke so powerfully how she healed, and now she works for Olive Crest to help those who are. So I'm thinking, I think kids need to see how this is done, how that it is possible to heal, and they really need to see people who have the authority to speak on this, who have addressed this, whether bringing in people who have experience and they found way to heal, whether it's someone famous or someone well known or someone who's just passionate about this work. They just need to see that Blacks, whites, Asians who have been hurt, that they can't heal from this, but in fact they can actually increase the love for each other. So I think they need to see how this is done, this can be done, and really help encourage them how to love more, how to be the light more. Yes, it's dark. Yes, there's a lot of division, but they need to see that this can be done. We can model that. There are people who actually, this is their life passion to bring this kind of truth to people. So that's where my thoughts going. Maybe we could bring some people, and we could have like an all day or half a day where school students gather, and they could witness, maybe open to parents. They could see that love can bring down these walls. And there are people who have done this.
Thank you, Virgil. I'm going to go to, we are over time, but this has been powerful conversation, very informative. Dennis and Norma, if you do have to leave us, don't feel obligated to stay, but we will continue the conversation for a while. And then I'm asking my leadership team members, Tom, Mary, Sherry, Pastor Michael, if you have time, will you hang out with me for about 10 minutes after I close the meeting to all others? I need your insight. Dennis, you're up.
Yes, Joe. It's very interesting, and I agree with what a lot of people are saying. One of the things working in the schools as a school psychologist and counselor, K through 12, many years, we are try to pay attention to developmental needs of kids. I left about 10 years ago. Granite Falls called me back. They had a crisis at the high school. A threat to the high school, which was keeping some of the kids out of school, parents upset. So they called me back to work with the parents and the kids at the high school. This threat came through a foreign country, so it took several months for them to track down and find out who that was. But the community and the schools were quite upset. One of the things, looking at developmental needs of junior high and high school kids, social interaction and recognition is really quite high at that age level. And since that time, in the past 10 years, we've had a lot of different stressors that have just multiplied with the pandemic and everything else. And being out of school, kids haven't had the social interaction opportunities that they had. So they do turn to social media. They do turn to ways to try to get some recognition, kind of thing, appropriate and inappropriate. So I think we have to look at those kind of things. And when kids being out of school for quite a while, the educators were focused on trying to get them caught up, and we focus on the academic thing, which sometimes puts more stressors on them. I think we need to also kind of balance that with social interaction opportunities for kids, so they can have that interaction. They don't have to rely on social media totally, which can be dangerous. And they get recognition, where they don't feel they have to do something to get that recognition. So I think that's something that I just wanted to point out, that we need to kind of keep a balanced approach in kids' needs at this point in time, especially with so many tremendous stresses that they're dealing with, as well as their parents and people.
You're speaking my language, Dennis. Linda, sorry, Norma, you're up. And then Tom, I'm going to ask you to close.
Okay, thank you. I need to point out that we need a definition of the terms loving and light, especially in the case of young people, because they need clarity for these definitions. So that's my contribution.
You know, I think that's a really good point, because a lot of us are using the same words these days, but they don't carry the same meaning.
Exactly.
A lot of the work that I do starts with ensuring that we have a common understanding of what we're talking about. So a point really well taken, Norma. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom?
That's interesting, because that's what I was going to say, that we need language. And excuse me. And Mary Ruley said that we don't have common language. And what do we mean by racism? If you ask your class how many of you are racist, how many hands are going to go up? Nobody. So we've got to get to that. And the other piece that just struck me is that my son has a Black Lives Matter sign, and he's gotten some criticism for it. And they say all lives matter. No, they don't. The goal is that all lives matter, but we're not there. And I think that's why we had this whole discussion today. It's a great discussion, and I really appreciate all the input, but we'll keep that goal of all lives matter, but we won't pretend that we're there.
Thank you, Tom. Linda had a final comment.
I just want to piggyback off of Norma, and being in law enforcement and also in the other nonprofit world for adjudication and for support advocacy. When you look at, both the bullier and the bully, those who are bullied and the victims of such, you really need to see a path for both. Because if you just focus on one, then you're losing how that student got there. Because they're as important as those that are victimized. And I think we need to find a close parallel between those two, because sometimes some of our victims that are bullied become bulliers as well. So that's just another consideration to look at when we look at the realm of how this intersects and how it affects the students and the school in general. And our focus needs to be narrowed on both, or else we're not representing the school in a way that helps all students.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to call this meeting adjourned for everybody but the leadership team. Thank you, guys. I think we have the start of a path forward, and we'll come back to you. I love the solution.
Thanks, Jill.
Merry Christmas.